describing to me the ability for these pilots, for these individuals who trained for this mission.
Okay, all right, Kelly, go ahead. Here we go. Here's another one.
Hello, sir. Thank you very
We
much.
got them all today.
Okay. So, Mr. President, you talked about expecting some on-the-ground assessments at Fordo and other sites. Is that Israeli and U.S.?
It's been obliterated, Kelly.
What is your message then, sir, to the intelligence community when they present reports? You're not disputing the DIA report. You're just...
They presented a report that wasn't finished. We're talking about something that took place 3 days ago.
I understand that, sir.
The report was done
so
3 days ago. Wait a minute.
Yes.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess. Now, if you take a look at the pictures, if you take a look how it's all blackened, you know the fire and brimstone is all underground because it's granite and it's all underground. You don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. The group that's run by this gentleman, in fact, you may want to talk about it for a second because we're going to issue a report. And I think it's not even a very exciting report at this point. It's been obliterated, totally obliterated. And they did a report, but it was like, if you look at the dates, it's just a few days after it happened.
Sir.
So they didn't see it. They said it may be very severe.
Understood. Do you have a message for the intelligence community, though, in terms of unvarnished information getting to you, that it's not...
I don't really have a message. I would say issue the report when you know what happened. I wouldn't say that it could be severe or maybe not. They use the word severe. It could be severe or maybe it's not.
And
so people like you picked up and said, oh, it's not severe.
We're just
no, the report was not a complete report. Yeah, the message was probably wait till you know the answer before you...
And sir, did you not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin? Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots,
what you mean,
these
Will
refuelers,
Smith?
these fighters,
Hi,
these air defenders,
Isaiah
the skill and the
Velasco.
courage it took to
Good
go into
morning.
enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the
We're
American
listening
people
to
in
the
the
news
world to take out a nuclear
updates.
program is beyond what anyone in this audience
What will
can fathom.
happen if we agreed
The instinct of CNN,
together?
the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political
I'm
reasons.
just listening to this news because me also, I
myself,
myself, I'm also
they don't care what the
afraid.
world thinks. They want to spin it.
I'm so afraid. I'm from the Philippines, but I'm working here in the UAE, that's
and what
why
do leakers do? They have agendas.
I'm so afraid.
And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that
My mom told me to go home, but
a preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment. You know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12, 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain,
hello.
devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an
Where are you
assessment
living
of
right
what
now,
happened
Will
at
Smith?
Fordo, you better get a big shovel
Macintosh,
and go really
thank you
deep,
for joining my
because
live.
Iran's
Thank you
nuclear
so much.
program is
Thank
obliterated.
you, Will
And
Smith.
somebody somewhere is trying to leak
Lieutenant
something
Dan
to say,
Marker.
oh,
Hi.
with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that drop the bombs precisely
I'm
in
here
the right
in the
place
UAE.
know exactly what
Will
happened when
Smith,
that
I'm
exploded.
here in the
And you know who else knows? Iran.
UAE.
That's why they came to the
United
table right
Arab
away, because their
Emirates,
nuclear
but I'm from the
capabilities
Philippines.
have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage
Thank you,
of a
Marquinhos,
commander-in-chief who led our troops
Thank you
despite
so
what the
much.
fake news wants to say.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was
Oh, you're in
initial.
Africa, South
The report
Africa,
said
Niker.
what it said, and it was fine. It was severe.
Every day I'm
They think, but they had
listening
no
to this
idea.
news
They shouldn't have
because
issued a
I'm
report
afraid,
until
and
they
my
did.
mom told me
But
to
we've
go
gotten the
home.
information. I think
in
Pete
the
said it better than you
Philippines.
can say it. And you know, you should be proud, you, especially you.
No ego.
You should be proud
Good morning.
of those
Thank you for
pilots.
joining
And you
this
shouldn't be
live.
trying to demean them.
No, there's
Those
Nimai
pilots flew
Mohanty.
at great risk, a
and
big chance that
skill
they'd
of
never come back
Oh,
home
I
and see
think
their
I
husbands or
can-
their wives. Let me just tell you, you and NBC,
You are
fake
serious
news, which is one
to
of the
hear the
worst,
news, and you
and
are
CNN,
the...
New York Times are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. You know what? You should be praising those
I know,
people instead
Lord.
of trying to find some. By getting me, by trying to go and get me,
You
you're
should
hurting those
focus
people.
on
They were
yourself,
devastated.
Nimai
You know,
Mohanty.
I got a call from Missouri, great state. And
Think
I won
about
3
your
times
family,
by a
your
lot.
mom, your
And I
sister,
got a call that
and your
the
wife.
pilots and
Don't
the people
talk
on the plane were
nonsense.
devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but
Connor
real
Williams,
scum,
what
real
you mean
scum
you?
come out and write reports that
Thank you
are
for
as
joining,
negative as
Connor.
they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them
Thank you so much,
heroes and
Marquinitos.
heroines. You should make them really people that
Thank you from
they were
India.
so devastated when they heard
Hi,
this
Thor.
news. And you
How
know
are
what they
you?
said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, said, "Sir, we hit the site. It was perfect. It was dead on."
India, thank you for your
Because they don't
support.
understand fake news because they have a
God
normal
bless
life,
you all.
except they have to fly
Lappy
very big, very
Shield.
fast planes. But it's a
Again,
shame.
you're
You should
calling
be
me
making them
baby.
heroes. All right.
I'm not a
Now let's
baby.
go to RNC Senior
Mark
Advisor
Lindstad.
Danielle Alvarez. And Danielle, Rebecca
What you mean?
really hit the nail on the head on a lot of the
Hi,
Iran-Israel
thank you for
part of
joining,
this. I want to go to the
Bapi
reason
Shield.
that Donald Trump is there.
Where
to
are
begin
you
with. The reason
watching
just a few
right now?
seconds ago we saw him taking
Ben's
a picture
over.
with the Secretary General. It obviously is this, as we watch right now on the screen live, the makings of the family photo as all the world leaders get into place. Danielle, the
What you
reason
mean
we are
bend
here
over?
is because Donald Trump told these world leaders, you need to raise your defense spending to 5%. They did it. The Secretary General, in comments we heard within the last half hour, 45 minutes, said multiple times this would not have happened without Donald
It's
Trump.
not like
What
that.
did the election in 2016 of Donald Trump and the re-election last year mean for our world's safety going
you, Bapi
forward,
Shield.
for your
Ram
kids, for
Vlog
my kids,
29.
for our grandkids,
Thank you for
for
joining.
future
Darren
generations?
OC, hello.
This is the first chapter in a book titled Peace Through Strength,
Mark
where the
Lindstad.
entire world and certainly the American people are grateful for the mandate that
Thank
was
you, Mark
delivered
Lindstad, for
in
joining.
November. Every single battleground state, the popular vote, the House, the Senate, and the entire world are grateful for the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, which is a stark contrast to the weakness we saw in our nation and on the world stage from President Joe Biden. Obviously, this weekend's going against Iran was a huge success. We're very grateful to the members of the military who executed that strike, but certainly grateful to President Trump because he walked into NATO this weekend with a huge win. And again, peace through strength, the focus there being on peace. He's able to now gather in this family photo. What a great image on screen right now.
This comes out on my
He's able to gather this family photo.
this
He's
one,
able to bring these nations together
news.
to increase
So
defense
I'm
spending,
listening
and
every
always
day.
promise make sure everyone pays their fair share.
Yeah, and we see the president. He's standing next to the NATO Secretary General and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer taking part in this family photo. We see some
Let's
smiles.
just listen.
there
I
among the
don't
world
have
leaders.
anything to say, but only to listen.
We're going to listen in for just a second, see if we can catch what anybody's saying.
There's nothing wrong with that, right?
No.
Because I love listening.
All right, yeah, we couldn't hear anything that they said.
Sometimes,
but they took the family picture,
if
and then
no
they're going to be going
radio,
off
I'm
to
listening to
NATO
the
meetings
radio.
that are going to last several
I'm
hours
listening
before
to the
President Trump
news,
takes part
politics,
in a press
and
conference that's
because
expected
I'm
at
a
9
good
a.m.
listener,
Eastern
you
time.
know.
So he's going to be answering even more questions, making even more news from this
I
NATO
listen
summit.
to
And
every
speaking of making
details.
news, one of the things that
Every day.
was announced is that the FBI is going to be investigating this leak of the intel report, this initial analysis of Operation Midnight Hammer that Secretary Hegseth described as politically motivated. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm going to echo the words of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. It's an absolute embarrassment that there was a leak. I think that this is part of the deep state that the president has been saying that he's going to clean
Just a
up.
breaking
I
news
am happy to
this
hear that
day,
there's going
this
to be
time,
investigations into
this
this
day.
leak. This mission was so critical. I was actually having breakfast with my husband the other morning, who served in the United States Marine Corps, and what he was describing to me, the ability for these pilots, for these individuals who trained for this mission, to go without radio communication for 40 hours. How tight-lipped this was. How people kept
The same
this
like other
very
countries,
quiet
they're
so that we
doing
could
so well
execute
also.
and again obliterate these 3 nuclear sites. Make sure
Because
that Iran
if they
does
need also
not
help,
have nuclear weapon and nuclear capabilities.
someone
I
will
think that
help
huge
you.
success and a
If you need
celebratory
help,
moment, but I am
someone will
certainly
help you
glad
also.
that we are
Like
going
that,
to
just
look
like
into
that.
who is leaking.
The president going on to say to this point, Danielle, if the strike wasn't successful,
Iran would not have agreed to the ceasefire.
I'm not
Marco
talking
Rubio,
about what
Secretary of
you're
State,
saying. So I'm
doubling
saying
down
people
on your
saying
comments,
the wrong
calling
things
the
to you.
individuals that leaked this document professional stabbers,
What's wrong?
going on to say
What's
they
wrong with
read
that?
it and characterize it
I'm
for
doing
you
nothing
in a
wrong.
way that is false. So I think that
Thank
underscores
you,
how seriously
anyway,
the
Nitro.
administration is taking this. But
Mr.
globally,
Zumi, thank you
even
for
though
joining my
Donald
live.
Trump and his administration have been brought in to root out the deep state, I think we could all agree that this administration is finding it is not an easy task to root out the deep state. Your thoughts on that?
Oh my God.
I think that's exactly right.
What
There are
is
individuals who have been entrenched in Washington, D.C. and in the Beltway, and we have to eradicate those individuals from the system. But again, I really want to focus on the success of the United States in this mission. The entire world was watching. The entire world saw the might and strength of the United States military and is grateful. We saw the immediate ceasefire, as you mentioned. Iran immediately put their hands up, agreed to the ceasefire. They want to see peace, and that can only be done because President Trump is our commander-in-chief. President Trump is in the White House, and in that situation room, great decisions were made, and we now have a peaceful, more prosperous world.
And Daniel, final question to you, because NATO 5's Article guarantee, NATO Article 5 guarantee rather, obviously says an attack on one nation is an attack on all. And yesterday the president was asked if he's committed to that, and he says it depends on your definition. There are numerous definitions of Article 5, but I'm committed to being their friends. I'm committed to saving lives. Can you tell us a little bit more about what he meant by that? It depends on your definition.
Mr. Zumi, I don't get you.
President Trump's mentality is America first. He's always going to put the American people and our nation first. It's a promise that he made throughout his first campaign, throughout his first administration, throughout the recent campaign. And he's made that promise in the months since being elected and sworn in
Marquinitos,
as our
I'm
president.
8 years
And so
here.
I think that we can take him at his word. He's always going to
Thank
put
you for
America
asking.
first. He is always going to put make decisions
What
that
are you
going
watching
to make
right
sure
now,
that we are safe,
Marquinitos?
that we
Thank
are
you for
prosperous
joining my live.
first and foremost. And so I think that we will have allies. I think that we will certainly be a team player, but the president is not going to go into needless wars as demonstrated by this weekend strikes and the immediate ceasefire that came in the aftermath.
Danielle Alvarez, thank you for sticking with us this morning for your insight on the major happenings overseas. We appreciate it. Let's bring in Hudson Institute Senior Fellow Rebecca Heinrichs. And Rebecca, I'm sure you were listening to the president's press conference there last hour. Lasted about 20 to about 30 minutes. A lot was covered.
Thank you
The
for
number one
the
takeaway I think a
love.
lot of us had
Anyway.
was about what NATO is going to do going forward, but we cannot look past his comments on what happened with regard to the bombing in Iran over the weekend.
Thank you for joining,
Saying statements as to the future, phrases like they are not going to enrich.
Marquinitos.
The last thing they
Oh,
want
you're
to
from
do is
Australia.
enrich. They are not going to do it again, and I think
a little bit.
had it. What do you make of the president's comments
Marquinitos,
on Iran's
only
willingness and
little.
capability to
I
develop
think
a nuke in the future?
not all because I'm
Well, look, I mean,
I'm
you
with
can only
the
take care of the problems immediately in front of you. And so
I'm
we took care of the
especially
Iranian nuclear program just a few days ago.
my
The Iranians are
my
so
boss
foolish as to make more problems for us. I
speaking
have no
always
doubt that
English
President
to
Trump will
me,
take care of that
not
problem
in
as well.
Arabic.
Look,
That's
I think
why
this is a big
I
deal.
know
I
a
think that this
little
is a really
Arabic.
big
I
deal that
understand, but
President
I
Trump
can't
took
speak
decisive action,
that
demonstrated incredible
fluently.
military power and military capability to take out the Iranian nuclear program, and also it gives
Thor,
President Trump and
I
the
can't
United
read
States a lot of
this
credibility
one.
that
Can
we
you
will
put in
do what we say
English?
we're
Can
going
you
to
write
do.
in
We're
English,
talking about
please?
NATO. He's now at the NATO summit. NATO can be confident that the
Sonny
United
Flores,
States has
thank
the
you.
military capability and a president who has the will to say what he
I'm
needs
fine.
if in fact you have a country that crosses us like
I
the
just
Iran
finished
regime
my
did. And I
work
think
early
that
today,
bolsters the
guys.
credibility of NATO as well.
Thank you,
Understood. Here's more of
Marquinitos.
what the president had to say just moments ago.
Very good. I think very good. Israel came back yesterday. I was so proud of them because they came back. You know, they went out because they felt it was a violation, and technically they were
What
right.
happened
but
to
it
you,
just
Thor?
wouldn't have worked out very well. And they brought the planes
I'm
back.
too
They
much
had
serious
gone on to
here,
another
and you're
journey because there
talking
was a little bit of a
like
violation,
that.
and, I said, "You
The
gotta
world
come
is
back."
changing now,
And they came
Thor.
back, and it was a
Maybe
great thing,
the
and
end of
it's
the
going
world,
very
then
well.
you will not see me.
So the president confirming that the Israel-Iran ceasefire is going well for now, and he made that phone call to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu
Oh my
to
God.
call the planes back from a potential Iranian attack. While he was on the
I
plane
think
going
the
to
end
this
is
NATO
near,
summit,
so
he also said, Rebecca, during
how
these
come?
remarks to the media, that he believes that the United States is
Thank
going to
you,
have
Mark
some form
Frost.
of relationship with Iran in the years to come after this current
I'm
conflict
from
is
the
over.
Philippines
What do you
store.
think about that? It feels like the president is
I'm
doing the
working
carrot
here
and
in the
stick method,
UAE.
where Iran certainly saw the stick,
I'm a
and now the
housemaid,
president could
okay?
be offering them the carrot.
I'm a housemaid here in the UAE, but
Well, I think it's
I'm
interesting.
from the
President Trump
Philippines
made the remark
actually.
a few days ago that the United States does not have any permanent enemies. And so he's always looking for improvement between relations. I'm skeptical that the Iran regime is anywhere near
Thank you
the
so
state of
much.
mind to move forward with a more positive relationship.
Hi,
but look, the option
Jonathan.
is still open. I do think
Thank
it's
you
important
for
to note
joining,
that even
Jonathan.
as President Trump tries to get the Israelis to stand down on some of the more aggressive air campaign against the Iranians, there still needs to be
You need
you still need to
housemaids,
have
huh?
Israelis
You
inside
need
the
maybe you
country
need
doing,
housemaid. You don't need a
private
wife.
campaigns to make sure they get any of the other illicit nuclear material out of Iran.
God bless
So
you
there's
too,
still going to be
Marquinitos.
some military options,
Yeah.
I think, going on inside Iran on the part of the Israelis. I think the United States would be extremely
I'm here
wise
in
to
the
support that.
UAE,
It's just that we're
Jonathan,
not,
United
almost
Arab
certainly not going to
Emirates,
see
but
these
I'm
much
from the
more
Philippines.
aggressive
I'm
air
working here.
campaigns
I'm a housemaid.
that the Israelis have been so successful at carrying out thus far.
And on the
What
left-hand side of your screen,
joking?
Rebecca, the President of the United States, once again,
See,
now
you're
posing
joking.
for a picture
Don't
with, I
joke
believe,
today
if my
because we are
eyesight
on
serves me, no,
serious
that is not
matters.
Emmanuel Macron. I just
We
need
don't know
better
if he's
glasses,
still
okay?
alive
Secretary
tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay?
Before we let you go, I want to ask your thoughts on this. Within the past few hours, the Iranian parliament voting to suspend
Mentors,
cooperation
Haksor.
with the
Thank you for joining.
IAEA. Is that
Chicken,
significant,
chicken
or
on
was Iran's
biscuits.
cooperation with the IAEA always tenuous at best?
Well, look, there's a lot of criticism from
Chicken,
the expert community of
chicken
President
on
Trump that
biscuits.
because he authorized and directed the United States to take out Iran's nuclear program,
My
that the
opinion
United
with
States
that
was in
is,
violation of international law. My response
for
to that
me,
is we just enforced the non-proliferation treaty, which
I
the Iranians
think,
were in violation of. So if the Iranians now decide that they're not going to cooperate with the IAEA, I
I
say,
can
look,
tell
that
on
organization
live.
is there to conduct inspections of your nuclear program. You were already in violation of the non-proliferation treaty.
I can
So we'll
tell
see how
on
this
live.
goes. I mean, I think right now we're going to hear a lot of, upset rhetoric
Thank you,
from the Iran
Marquinitos.
regime,
Yeah.
understandably. I would like
Even
to see
here
them
in the
comply with the
UAE,
IAEA,
more
but we need
nurses
to get the Iranians complying
from
with
the
all sorts of
Philippines.
international norms of which they've been in violation to this point.
And we're hearing that all the world leaders are going to be gathering. They're going to be taking a family photo.
Oh, I'm from Luzon.
And we're going to be bringing you those images when they come in. But Rebecca, something else I wanted to ask
Thank you.
you
Take
about
care,
is that,
Thor.
Iranian media is reporting this morning
What's
that
happened?
they have executed 3 Mossad spies.
God bless you,
They're
Thor.
describing them as Mossad spies that were living in Iran.
Don't joke
And Iran
again,
is
huh?
also saying that more than 700 people who they
Thank
say
you.
were aligned with Israel have been arrested over the last
Chicken
12
on
days.
biscuits. You
So
make
two
me laugh.
questions really come to mind when it comes to
Emmanuel
that.
Silva,
Could
thank you for
those
joining.
actions by Iran
You're
impact
welcome.
the ceasefire that is very
John
fragile
Reina.
taking place right now? And also, could that create an uprising in Iran against the regime itself?
I'm laughing.
Well, I hope so, to
Why
answer
like
your latter
this?
question. I mean, I think President Trump was right when a couple of days ago he said that essentially we would welcome
Your
a
message may
change
be
in the
on
regime in
held for
Iran.
review.
The Iranian people are the ones that are going to have to do it. You're not going to see, I think, pressure from
John
the United
Reina.
States downward to
Where
try
are you
to make
from?
that happen. But clearly, we would want a secular regime that granted security and freedom and blessed the Iranian people, and did not oppress the Iranian people. That would be good for the United States. That would be good for them. They're the ones that have suffered more than any other person under this Iran regime that's really a jihadist regime and has been the most
What you mean?
aggressive and active state sponsor of terrorism and instability throughout the Middle East. I think we're going to hear a lot of, again,
okay, maybe your wife, mentor Haksor, is from the Philippines. Eric Widman, thank you for joining.
We should expect to hear some
Mustang guys, 6981, hello, thank you for joining. John Reina.
I certainly pray that is not the case.
Stop talking nonsense.
Thank you for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
You are watching live video. That is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands with, of course, our
Hi,
President
Daddy.
Donald Trump. They are at The Hague in the Netherlands for
Hi,
this,
Eric
for the
Widman.
NATO talks. We're going to continue to monitor this. I think we're going to listen in right now.
Saurab. Due Vedi.
Pilots that risk their lives for our country. And then
What?
they get fake news, New York Times and CNN make up a phony story to get some hits. It's the only reason I cared about
It
it. Because those
depends
pilots
on
were so brave. I've never
where
seen
you
anything
use
like it.
your hand.
They flew into the hornet's nest
Use
and then
for
they got
eating,
hurt so badly by
use for
what the fake
working.
news wrote. And
Too
it was
many
CNN, it was the New York
useful.
Times,
Your
and
hand
they're
is
both
useful, I think.
disgusting.
It's not bad.
Really horrible groups of people. The pilots did
Eric Widman.
an unbelievable job like
Thank you for
nobody's ever
joining.
seen. They hit pay dirt. You see where I guess you probably look, they call
This
it the
is
wound.
a party
You see where the
house.
wound is on the earth. And three of them right next to each other. Perfect. And they should be admired and respected for what they did. And the fake news.
Wow,
in order to try and hit
mentors,
me,
huh?
The fake news made
Are
them
you a
look bad.
mentor?
But now they look really good again. So that was the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission. And it was also about the High Commission of
Just
Iran.
talking
Just said it was totally
nonsense,
demolished.
huh?
But we're going to have a news conference in a couple of minutes, and we'll see you because I don't want to burden the Prime Minister with this. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone.
I want to bring in General Jack Keane to get his thoughts here.
Yeah,
President Trump-
Marquinitos.
I'm not going to play any sound right now since we just were able to hear from it and you listened to the entire thing. When it comes to
Ultra, thank you for
Iran
joining.
and being on its heels, and this intel assessment and how long it
What
takes in
you
order
lied,
to
John
understand what
Reina?
actually
What
happened.
lied?
What do you
What
think
lie
about
you told
his
me?
answer there? Will that satisfy some of the critics who are trying to snipe at this effort?
I'm fine,
The
Emmanuel.
evidence as it comes out will be quite overwhelming. I've been in contact with the
I'm
Israelis,
good,
who
yeah.
are really the people on the ground.
I
taking a
hope
look
you
at
do.
this. And they believe that based on their preliminary assessment,
Brazil?
it's the people on the ground that are going to make.
Oh, thank you,
the most
Brazil.
in-depth assessment of what is taking
I
place
watch
here. And they haven't completed their
on
assessment.
my channel.
And they
I
believe the
check
program
it's
is set
Brazil
back at
is
least 2
watching.
years,
Thank you
if
so
not
much for
longer,
your help.
based on what took place.
Thank
at
you for
those sites.
joining,
And obviously
Brazil.
they hit
Manuel
all
Silva.
12 sites before we
Thank you.
hit the major underground facilities here. And look at the DIA report.
I'm fine,
It was a
Ultra.
preliminary report that had never reached the president
Like
yet.
Ultra.
It has to go through a process with all the intelligence agencies coming together, making an assessment, and then bring
Really,
that
Eric
conclusion to
Widman?
the president.
I'm like
That has
Mexican.
been
I'm
truncated by the
Mexican.
week. So that process
Mexicans
hasn't even
are
been completed. And certainly the people reporting on the New
are
York Times and CNN are trying to
it's
take
like
advantage of it. I think this will simmer down at some point as the evidence is
they're
overwhelming in terms
prettier.
of the success of this operation. But,
But
let me
it
say a
depends
couple of more points on this. The
from your
ceasefire,
genes,
I
I
would have
think.
liked to have seen it have some conditions.
And I'm
Public
not
conditions
pretty.
as well as private conditions. And
Yeah,
that is
maybe the
that
other
you are
Filipinos
not
are pretty.
going to rebuild your program.
I'm
and
just
if you
contented
do,
for who
Israel
I am.
and the United States may have to stop it, and we will. I think that's implied, and the president certainly made statements to that effect here, so it cleared up any doubt of
Oh,
what we're
really,
dealing
Eric?
with. Let's
Maybe.
face reality here. The regime that's in power in Iran has not changed. They're going to still want a
Saurabh.
nuclear weapon because they believe it protects them in terms of their survival. They will try to find a way to rebuild
Saurabh,
it.
what are
That's
you
kind of who
talking
they are.
now?
They are steadfast in their resistance to the United States and Israel. And the
Mentors
United States certainly
or
is committed to Israel here to make certain this doesn't
Duterte
happen. As
is
Martha said, I mean,
Duterte
Iran is back on its heels
for
in
now.
a way that they have never been in 45 years. They have lost their military capability, they've
Wow.
lost their nuclear program,
You're really
much
good
of their
at your
ballistic
work,
missile
mentor.
program, much of their leadership. And I think they've been politically weakened inside
Trump
of their country,
is on
which
live
makes them
a while ago,
vulnerable,
but now
just
is
maybe through violence and a coup
it's
changing
not
the regime,
it's not him.
or eventually the people
A while ago,
themselves
he is
having
on
a
live.
say about changing the regime. But nonetheless, I don't want to focus too much on regime change, but they're vulnerable to it in a way they haven't been. Then a second major point he made.
Can you tell me?
Deterrence. The United
Can
States
you talk
is
now,
focusing
Eric,
on destroying the end state
our
of
language?
Iran's nuclear program with such a major,
Message me in
remarkable
Filipino.
operation that was
John
conducted
Reina,
here. Our adversaries are
stop
looking at
joking
this,
now.
and they see the message. And that's the United States global leadership returning to the world stage.
Yusuf
and their willingness
Kaplan,
to
thank you for
confront
joining.
adversaries. The other thing that makes this
English
so
problem?
important and critical is look at the proxies. None of them came to help Iran in a
No,
moment
you
of
can
desperation.
understand.
Particularly Hezbollah, who was organized with billions of dollars,
Yes.
150,000 rockets and missiles,
Thank
to
you,
do principally
Yusuf.
one thing: defend Iran against Israel. They never fired a shot. Where is Russia and China in helping their partner?
What you mean, Marquinito, cybersecurity?
No help whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Except rhetoric. Iran is
Hi,
isolated
Dean.
here, and we
Thank you
have
for
achieved the
coming.
measure of deterrence. Both of those adversary
Walter.
countries need to know.
Bom
And they
dia.
got the message from President
Wow.
Trump. We are willing to confront your
Meu
aggression and your
amor.
ambitions when they're stepping on
Support
U.S.
visit.
national
Okay,
interests.
Turkey,
And that is
Istanbul. Okay,
hugely powerful message
Linda,
that
Manis.
is coming out of
Yes,
what we're saying.
Linda.
You were men of
Hi,
strength,
Yusuf.
but you're
Where
also
are you
a
right
man of
now?
peace. And the fact that you were now
Will you marry me? Sabi ni Saurab. Ano ba?
Israel and Iran, I really want to commend you for that.
NATO Secretary General
Why
Mark
too
Rutte
much
praising
joking
President Trump's
for me
diplomacy in the
on
Middle
live?
East. And that's the mood back home as well. Georgia Congressman Greg Carter,
I'm
formally
from the
nominating the president for
Philippines.
the Nobel Peace
I'm
Prize.
working
Carter
here
saying
as a
Trump's leadership
housemaid here in the
Iran,
UAE.
brokering a ceasefire deserves recognition. So we'll see how that goes.
It's
That ceasefire
it's
does
coming
appear to be
4
holding
p.m.
after a
here
pretty
in the
shaky start.
UAE,
Israel
guys.
and
It's
Iran are both keeping their
3:41.
powder dry, at least
Yeah,
for now.
3:41
Mike
p.m.
Tobin is joining us live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Hi, Mike.
Dim Fox,
And Bill,
what's
you've got
that?
all sides in this conflict claiming victory at this point. You got President Trump in
Hi,
The Hague
Kenneth
right now,
Kately. Thank you
pushing
for
back at the
joining
news
the live.
agencies who have run
See,
reports that,
Krishna, where
according
are
to
you
an
right now?
intelligence
Thank you for
report,
joining.
suggesting that the U.S. damage or the damage done by the U.S. strikes is not as extensive as the president says they are.
Are you
The
in
Secretary
India,
of State is
Krishna?
traveling with them, criticizing these news agencies for
Yusuf,
running the reports that were
what's
generated
this?
by a leak.
Unknown. I'm from the Philippines.
That's the game these people play. We dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet.
I'm
right
watching
down the hole
Fox
in 2
News
places. Everything underneath that
Ultra.
mountain is in bad shape. Now anything in the world can be rebuilt,
Marquintis.
but now we know where it is. And if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this
28
leaker stuff,
plus
these
years
leakers
now
are
and served
professional
U.S. Marine
stabbers.
Corps operation. Desert Freedom
The
95.
IAEA chief Rafael Grossi says he
99.
wants to get
Oh,
inspectors
really,
on the
mental?
ground to assess the damage, but he
You're
is in
really
agreement with
good at your
President Trump that
work.
Iran and its nuclear program are no longer the same. Hardline
How
supporters
great
of
you
Iran's
are.
government gathered to rally
Nice.
in Tehran. Iran also executed 3 men they accused of spying for Israel. They were convicted in an
Anyway,
Iranian court
thank you,
of
Eric.
smuggling equipment used in an assassination. Meantime, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is claiming victory and publicly expressing a desire to work out
How do I
differences
believe
with
it?
the United States. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also claiming victory, saying that 2 existential threats to the Jewish state are now gone: the ballistic missile arsenal of
It's
Iran
okay,
and Iran's
Manuel.
nuclear program.
You're good to
Bill,
that.
back to
Hopefully
you.
the people in Israel can finally take a breath now that they don't have missiles coming in every day. Mike Tobin live in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Eric.
Let's bring in retired 4-star General Joseph Votel. He's a former CENTCOM commander, and it's so good to have you here today.
Oh,
Yesterday
I
afternoon, the
have
IAEA
a
director
friend.
was on with Martha McCallum. Hey, take a listen to what
A
he said. I
lot.
want to get your take.
What we see is a very important degree of damage in all
No
the 3
question.
facilities.
I don't have a
which was the first
question.
to be hit and sustained very, very serious damage in one of the important centrifuge halls where enrichment was being carried out, although no one has been there inside to see. Of course, the conclusion is that the damage must be, very, very, very important.
General,
Yeah.
we can pull up the pictures here for the before and
Yeah,
after, and our
Ultra.
audience is getting used to seeing these. But
It's a
I
news.
think
I'm
what
always
the
listen to every
IAEA
details
director was saying is that
about
we don't
this
necessarily
daily
know
news.
for sure, but that he says that there has been a very important degree of damage.
Hi, Ellie.
What are you hearing, or what do you know?
Thank you for
that can
joining.
add to this conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. It's great.
Thank you from
great to be
Iran
with you.
people.
Well, I think his statement certainly.
Thank
is an
you from
important
Israel
one, and it
people
certainly
also.
underscores,
I'm neutral, you know,
significance of our
that's why.
strength here, and the fact that Iran's nuclear weapons capability is not the same today as it was just a week ago or just a few days ago.
I just care
So
about
I
my
think that's an
family,
important assessment. And
my
of course, he
kids.
emphasized the importance of getting people on the ground to look at this. I think the thing that's
myself,
most important for people to
and
appreciate
I
is
I care for the people
kind of something common
who
to talk about.
want,
It really is a process.
who
And I
have
think it goes through
dreams
certain
for their
phases. It starts with
future,
very
who
simple
wants to
initial
live
assessments,
longer,
and
who wants
gets
to have a good life, a peaceful life. That's why I want peace for all over the world. I just want love to spread love. That's why I'm so sad listening to this news. Why this world? What's happening?
Yes, people are impatient,
in this
right?
year,
We are used to ordering from DoorDash and getting it 10 minutes later. That's not how the intelligence will work.
Supposed to have
if you had to
vacation
guess how much time
this
is
year,
needed in order to fully
but
assess
it's
and
really
get a good
sad
sense.
what's happening right now.
It's going to be days
So we just need to take care for our families,
as soon as people can get on the ground and we can again,
because we don't know what will happen to us, to our daily life.
The intelligence community, the Pentagon,
We just support what's
better assessment, I think, what the impacts are. But
good
I think
to
I think it's very clear there's a significant amount
what's
of damage
really
that
good
has been done to the Iranian nuclear weapons
do.
program. I don't think there's any ability to dispute that. It's definitely different today than it was.
The CENTCOM commander nominee,
Yes,
who is going for the
and
job,
also
he
prayers,
testified on Capitol Hill yesterday about Iran as a danger overall.
Can help
I think we
in
would
our
all
daily
agree that
lives
Iran
right
is the
now,
number one source of instability in the region, the number one source
no matter
of
where we
and
are,
sponsor
right?
of terror throughout the world.
Yeah,
At the
really.
strategic level, I think they've been weakened.
I don't have any questions from both sides.
At the tactical level, I think they've been
I
degraded
just
into
care the
Iran
life
and its proxies.
of
I think that is a critical element of our national security. We've got to
all
be
the
a 3-point
people
stance
who
ready to
have
go
dreams,
every
who want to
single day.
live.
Do you agree with that assessment, or would you have anything to add in terms of dangers in the region?
I do
We
agree
care
with that assessment. I think it's
all
it's
the
pretty
lives,
accurate.
all our life.
Iran has
We care
suffered some significant strategic setbacks. Their long-range,
our dreams, what will happen.
weapons or ballistic missiles
Just like
beating over the last 12
what will
13
happen
days.
to
Their
our
nuclear
next
weapons
life.
program is,
We need to
has
care.
been severely damaged, and of course the third leg of their strategy here, the proxies. We've seen what's happened to Hezbollah. We've seen what's happened to Hamas.
So we need to have peace on our hearts, peace
still have the Iranian militia groups
in the whole world.
in Iraq and in Syria, but they have not responded much. They may in fact be deterred by the actions that have been taken by the Israelis and by the Americans over the last several days. So that said, they still have the ability to put boats out into the Straits of Hormuz. They still have the ability to mine. They still have likely sleeper cells or operatives that can do damage out there. And they have drone and cyber capabilities.
Nice,
so I don't think you can count Iran out here, although they have, I think, been strategically set back in a number of ways.
General Votel, thank you for joining us today.
Well ago.
Good to be with you.
Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Eric. That's Tagalog. Maybe you're translating only.
Oh, fake news, CNN? Oh, yeah, here we go. Wait till you hear this question.
Thank you, sir.
You should really say how great
Very nice,
our soldiers and our warriors are.
I think everyone appreciates our soldiers and our warriors. I do have two questions for you, Mr. President. You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier, you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is
It's
also
all
a
right.
Rand
Thank
made
you
the
for
statement.
coming. Good
And it's
morning,
also,
good
if you read the
afternoon here in the
document
UAE.
that was given, that
Yeah,
we can talk about if you'd like. The document said
I'm good.
it
It's
could
all
be
right.
very severe damage, but they didn't take that. They said it could be
Black
limited
people?
or it could be very severe. They really didn't know.
I have a
other
lot
than to
of
say
black
that
people
it could
friends.
be limited or it could be very, very severe.
My
And
roommates
you didn't choose to
also
put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional
from
intelligence.
Africa.
We've also
I
spoken
don't
to
have a
people who have
problem
seen
with
the
that.
site, and the site is obliterated. And we think
I have a lot of
everything
friends.
nuclear is down
I
there.
don't
They
have
didn't
any
take it out.
problem. I don't have any questions.
Please, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi,
Blue
Ritik
dress.
Thank you so
Rajapati.
much, Mr. President.
Thank
Yesterday
you for
you
coming.
said China
Eric
can now
Widman.
continue to
Why,
purchase
bye?
oil
You're going
from
now?
Iran.
You're going to sleep?
Are you giving up on your maximum pressure campaign? Because there
With
are
who?
sanctions right now
With who?
on Iran.
No, look, they just had a war. The war was fought. They fought it bravely. I'm not giving up. They're in the oil business.
Okay,
I mean, I
Manuel,
can
thank you
stop
so
it if I
much.
want it. I'd sell China the oil myself. I don't want to do that. They're going to need money to put that country back into shape. We want to see that happen.
I'm not talking better.
No,
Manuel?
if they're going to sell oil, they're going to sell oil. We're not taking over the oil. We could have, you know.
Sorry for
I
that.
used to say with Iraq, keep the oil. I could say it here too. We could have kept the oil.
Hi, Shakwan Shao.
China's going to want to buy
Yes,
oil. They can buy it
Mama.
from us. They can buy it from other people. But
Sian,
have
thank
to
you for
put that
coming.
country back into shape. It desperately needs money. Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Sian, thank you. Thank
Here we
you.
go. I'm picking the beauties
Borim
today.
Auntie, hello. Thank you for
Mr.
joining me.
President, Secretary General Rutte has described President Putin as an adversary, a threat, an enemy. Do you view him the same way? And in addition to that, you mentioned General Kane, your
Yeah,
chief of
my
staff.
employers are good.
The chairman of the
They're very
Joint Chiefs
kind
of
to me.
Staff. Okay. Yes, he has said that Mr. Putin has territorial ambitions beyond
What
Ukraine.
stories,
Do you view that in the
Martinitos?
same way?
Possible. I mean, it's possible.
What you mean?
I know one thing. He'd like to settle. He'd like to get out of this thing. It's a mess for him.
Terrible. They are good
He
to
called
me.
the other day. He said, "Can I help you
Thanks
with
God.
Iran?" I said, "No, you can help me with Russia."
Borim
Because you
Auntie.
know, in the last few
Oh,
weeks, we took care
sorry
of
for what's happened
India
there.
and Pakistan,
Borim.
Kosovo, Serbia. I think on Friday we have coming in. The Congo is coming in, and Rwanda is coming in. That was a vicious war that
I'm
went
so
on, a
sad
machete
when I
war.
heard that.
Heads chopped off all over
That
Africa.
place.
They're coming in.
Hi,
We
PK.
did two others in addition to that. Nobody's ever done anything like this. No, I consider him a person that's,
Yeah, me also.
I think,
I'm
been
praying
misguided.
for
I'm very
peace.
surprised, actually.
I just need
I thought we
peace
would have had that
and
settled easy. I've
to
settled
have
four
a
of them in the
peaceful,
meantime,
to
but he did
dream,
call up and he said,
to dream and to wake up
you know,
every
he's close
day
to
with
Iran. He'd like to help us get a settlement.
with a
I said,
bright
no,
sky
you help me
ahead
get a
of
settlement
you.
with you, with Russia. And I think we're going to be doing that too. Yeah.
The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt for more on all of this. So, the president
Yeah,
really went
really,
off in
Ritik.
The Hague in his news
Because
conference on reporting
I'm not
that
too much
these strikes
into. If
did
I'm
not
not
have done the
busy,
job here
if
in,
I'm not busy, I reply.
in Iran at the
But
Fordo nuclear
if I'm
facility,
busy,
and
I
others
can't
as
because
well.
I'm a
He also
housemaid.
took aim
I'm
at the
working
outlets that were
too
reporting
much,
this.
you know.
They said it could be limited or it could
Just
be very
now,
severe. They really didn't
I
know
can
other
rest
than to say
because I
it
just
could be
finished my
limited
work
or it could be
earlier.
very, very
Early.
severe. And you didn't choose to put that.
Hi,
Because it was
Sab.
very early
Thank you
after.
for
Since
coming.
then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there.
I
They
just
didn't
want
take it out.
So
just
this
want
is
to
a
know about
report from the
all
DIA
the
that Fox has
details and
confirmed it was
information about what's happening
preliminary
daily
and expressed low
because
confidence in the
I want to have
findings.
information about it.
And yet it was all over the news yesterday. It was all
I'm
the
just a
headlines yesterday.
housemaid,
What do you
but
say
I
in
want
response?
to have more information about
That's
what's
right, John.
happening
And President
all
Trump
over
is
the world.
absolutely right. And he
That's why.
returns to Washington
I
today
want
after
to
a
know more.
historic NATO summit where he has gotten our NATO allies to finally pay their fair share thanks to his strong leadership on the world stage. And I'd like to take a step back and
Yeah,
just
you're
acknowledge
right,
the
mentors.
history that has been made in the course of the last week thanks to President Trump's strength.
Karibet.
5 days ago, the rogue
I
Iranian
don't
regime
understand this.
possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire
Yeah.
world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear
Steven
weapon. And because of
Blancard,
the decisive
thank you
leadership
for joining
of
this
President
live.
Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to
Oh,
the
thank you
United
for
States
the
and the
Louisiana
world has
State.
been demolished
From
because of the
Louisiana
successful
State,
operation on Saturday night.
Steven.
And not only that,
Thank you for
but
joining.
within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run
I'm not
before.
Chinese,
You have
John.
hostile
I'm from the
actors within the
Philippines.
intelligence community who illegally leak
bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake
Tampa,
news narrative.
Florida.
And
Thank you
that's
so
what the
much.
CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his...
So at that news conference,
no worries, I will check after the live, Lawrence. Thank you so much for...
And the media outlets that gobbled it up. Listen to what he said.
To spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce?
Israel's Atomic Energy Commission had a completely different assessment of what happened at Fordo in Natanz.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here in the UAE.
It said that the site was completely destroyed.
Dito po sa United Arab Emirates, ma'am Norodin Simlay. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for joining.
IAEA Weapons Inspector David Albright on, who said much the same thing.
Well, Secretary Hegseth is absolutely right. This was a low-confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community, and it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night.
Thank you, Salvador Aguirre, from Sitio Lamuan, Kisau, Pilila Rizal. Thank you for coming.
This was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely
wrong. 69, thank you for joining.
And she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
All right, so there's the issue of reporting what was leaked, but then there's the idea of the leak itself. This was classified information. Here's what Steve Witkoff said about the leak.
We're waiting for peace.
Leaking that type of information, whatever site it comes out on, is outrageous. It's it's treasonous. So it ought to be investigated. There's no doubt that it was obliterated. So the reporting out there that in some ways suggests that we did not achieve the objective is just completely preposterous.
So Steve Witkoff
my editor is right now busy, that's why I cannot check on your message.
I am told by the FBI the leak already is being investigated, and it absolutely should be, because this was a top-secret intelligence analysis that very few people in the United States government had access to see. And so I understand the FBI and the Department of Justice are already on this, as they should be. And just to emphasize what our great Special Envoy Witkoff said last night, for people with common sense, everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. It doesn't take an intelligence analysis to understand that means complete and total destruction and obliteration. And the President of the United States, because of his decisive leadership in directing that operation on Saturday night, has now achieved a goal that the United States and the whole world has wanted to achieve for years, and that's the obliteration of the capability of the Iranian regime to possess a nuclear weapon.
Thank you.
There's one other question that remains out there, Caroline, and that's what happened to the nuclear material enriched to 60% that Iran already had in its possession? It's said to be about 900 pounds worth, enough for a number of bombs. The president believes that it was buried in one of those enrichment facilities. The director of the IAEA isn't so sure. Do you have evidence that you know exactly where it is?
Guys. Here in the
I can tell you the United States had no indication that that enriched uranium was moved prior to the strikes, as I also saw falsely reported. But as for what's on the ground right now, it's buried
I'm always
there, because of the success of these strikes on Saturday evening. So anyone saying that they know just doesn't know. And what we do know is the capability of these weapons and the success of this strike, and the fact that the United States military hit their targets precisely, perfectly, and accurately, and we know what that means.
Well, again, David Albright has done this for a long time, knows what he's looking at, thinks that those bombs went down near ventilation shafts where the rock would have been less resistant than if you had just hit it out in the open, and he firmly believes that those centrifuge halls have been destroyed. So we'll see. Caroline Levitt, always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Good everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and
Ritik,
this
thank
is
you
the
so much.
story Iran admitting that U.S. and Israeli strikes, quote, badly damaged their nuclear facilities. Here is the foreign ministry spokesperson today.
Oh my God.
Yes, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure, because it has come on the repeated attacks by Israeli and American aggressors.
Oh no.
And then for Israel's part, they say that their assessment is that the strikes have set back Iran's nuclear program by, quote, many years. We know that intelligence by Israel in Iran has been very astute.
Thank you for coming.
So
where are you watching right now, Aseidu?
The United States and Iran will hold some discussions next week.
Oh, next week?
When I saw them starting to question the caliber of the attack, was it bad? No, it was really bad. It was devastating. They were obliterated. We destroyed the nuclear. In other words, it's destroyed. I said, Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up. The kingdom come. I think the war ended actually when we hit the various nuclear sites with the planes.
And that's an interesting part of statement this morning. The president also posting that Iran, after the strikes that happened during Operation Midnight Hammer, the next thing that followed from Iran was that they gave the United States a heads up and said, we're going to be launching an attack, as ineffectual as it was, thankfully, on our base in Qatar, which suggests that it was a face-saving move for Iran, that they were really back on their heels, to say the least, at that point, but needed to demonstrate some sort of reaction for their home audience. Now, Brad Wenstrup is going to join us from the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. First, we go, though, to senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy reporting live near The Hague in the Netherlands as we cover the NATO meetings. Hi, Peter.
9 p.m.
And Martha, President Trump told us here that the United States has now collected additional intelligence on the ground in Iran since 24 hours ago, when that DIA assessment that was released with low confidence revealed that some Iranian nuclear facilities may have been intact.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess. Now, if you take a look at the pictures, if you take a look how it's all blackened, you know the fire and brimstone is all underground because it's granite and it's all underground. You don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire.
The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, now says new intelligence confirms what POTUS has stated numerous times. Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed. If the Iranians choose to rebuild, they would have to rebuild all 3 facilities, Natanz, Fordo, Esfahan, entirely, which would take years to do. The FBI leak investigation is ongoing, and a few minutes ago on Capitol Hill, we heard from the White House about how severely they want the person who leaked that DIA intel punished.
I understand the FBI is investigating who was the source of that leak because it's an illegal leak to CNN. And
what kind of consequences could the leaker face?
They should go to jail.
Jail time. And the White House is hinting that they think the leak came from Capitol Hill because we are also now told the White House is going to start limiting the classified information that they share with lawmakers as a direct result of this leak 24 hours ago. Martha.
Thank you very much, Peter.
It was the headlines that came out over the weekend, in part from CNN and New York Times. Early U.S. intelligence assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites, sources say. Strike sets back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months, U.S. report says. It was based on a DIA early assessment with low confidence. We had it. We reported on it. Jennifer Griffin put out stuff on it, and we've covered it here on the show. The CIA director, John Ratcliffe, putting out a quote, the CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from an historically reliable and accurate source method that several key Iranian facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. That from the CIA director tonight. With that and all of this, let's bring in Fox News chief political analyst Britt Hume. Britt, good evening. You know, there's a lot of this back and forth, but there are kind of broader issues here to look at about the strike and the fallout from it.
Well, Brett, the best thing you can say about that preliminary report that leaked out yesterday was that it was very, very tentative and very, very early, and it was marked as low confidence. There's only so much you can know about underground damage from massive bombing in the 48 or 72 hours after it happens, because in order to really know, you'd have to be in there. And nobody within the reach of the Defense Intelligence Agency that I've ever heard of would be in a position to assess that. But we have reporters working on this story, one in particular who works for CNN, who is a person who fell for the Steele dossier hook, line, and sinker, who wrote that the Hunter Biden laptop bought into the story that was Russian disinformation. And so she wasn't working for CNN at the time. It's not clear to me how she ever got a job there, but CNN took her anyway, and now she's doing this kind of stuff. So, I think that the subsequent intelligence reports we've heard about are more reliable, but, this all has to await a longer-term situation in which somebody's going to have to get in there and really find out. But the Iranians themselves were saying today that their nuclear program was badly damaged, so maybe we ought to rest with that.
Yeah, the Iranians, actually the foreign minister put out a statement. The Israelis had a statement that matched what the U.S. officials were talking about. Here is David Albright. He's a former IAE investigator. He was on today.
We've been looking at satellite imagery during the last 2 weeks, and it's pretty devastating. I mean, a lot of their above-ground facilities that are critical part of the centrifuge program have been destroyed. So I think these reports that somehow there weren't centrifuges taken out are just incorrect.
But more broadly, Britt, the fact that the U.S. flew this package of B-2 bombers, dropped 420,000 pounds of ordnance on nuclear sites inside Iran. Not a single shot was fired, not a single Iranian jet got off the ground, and we got out of there and got back. Suggests that we could do it again. And that was the message, not only for Iran, for China, for Russia, for the world.
Yeah, it was a reminder, if any were needed, that the United States military is the most proficient and powerful and technically equipped military on Earth. There's a sort of an attitude, Brett, a view that took hold in recent years to the effect that, the United States really hasn't won a war since World War II. Well, that's nonsense. People cite, the outcome in Iraq, and they cite the first Gulf War and the fact that Saddam stayed in power. The fact is, our military did not lose those wars. In fact, the first Gulf War was a walkover, and the second Gulf War, where we took down Saddam Hussein, was pretty much of a walkover too. Now, you can make an argument that, yeah, we won the war, we lost the peace, and maybe we did, but none of that is to take away from the extraordinary proficiency of our military forces.
What's
and
your religion anyway, Ritik?
The B-2
I'm
bomber
asking
being the most recent and most conspicuous example. The United States military is very good indeed, and one can only hope that the tyrants around the world
respect it if you tell me. No problem. I don't question you.
Think better of it after what we've just seen over this past weekend.
Yes. Britt, as always, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Berta Gomez, thank you for coming.
Subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and
really?
most compelling analysis.
So I'm your mom now.
Not get it anywhere else.
Where's your mom now, Berta? So if you think your mom is beautiful, maybe I'm just kidding.
President who puts America first and is a peacemaker. As he said,
oh, what is this?
Both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally.
That's
good. It was
good.
my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability and then stop the war. Now, an update on
BTM, thank you for coming.
24/7 efforts to assist U.S. citizens throughout the Middle East. The department is providing information and support to over 27,000 people seeking guidance regarding the conflict between Israel and Iran. The vast majority of people we are in touch with are seeking information which we provide regularly. The State Department began assisted departure flights from Israel on June 21st.
Thank you, mentor.
Flights have departed Israel
Really,
under the
I'm
US
not
citizens
young.
and
I'm
lawful
senior.
permanent residents and their accompanying immediate family members.
See, I have a white hair.
To our partners in the region and around the
Oh
world,
my God. I'm not young.
we also extend
I'm
our deep
old.
appreciation
That's
for the
why
government of
I'm her
Iran's
mom.
cooperation
Yeah,
in the defense of the
no
Udeid
problem.
Air Base, as well as our deep appreciation for the American, I should say the Al Udeid Air Base, as well as the deep appreciation for the American men and women in uniform.
Michael, really? Thank you for coming.
For U.S. and regional security. Yesterday, Iran launched several missiles against a UAE.
Oh, come on, Berta.
Successfully intercepted.
Wait, because I'm so tired to my work. I just finished my work a while ago, you
No
know.
Americans or Qataris were hurt.
That's why I need to rest, but while I'm resting, I watch daily news. That's
NATO
why.
summit at The Hague, as the secretary has noted, under President Trump's decisive leadership, we're driving
Oh, really?
change at NATO.
I'm 38 now, mentor. I'm not young. I'm not young anymore.
Organization of American
I'm
States
old.
General
I have
Assembly
white
in
hair.
Antigua
See?
and Barbuda, where we
Can't
will
you see
engage
my
with
hair?
regional partners
I'm in the
to advance
dark.
shared goals
That's why.
to make a more safer, stronger, and more prosperous hemisphere.
Thank you for
Secretary of
asking.
State Christopher Landau will lead the
Oh no.
reinforcing our commitment to supporting Rosa Maria Paya's candidacy to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, addressing the crisis in Haiti.
Oh, I think I need to block someone. Sorry, guys.
In the Western Hemisphere.
Sorry. I don't like talking nonsense because I'm a serious person.
For information leading to the location, recovery, and safe return.
Sorry, Berta. I need to block you.
Mr. Habibi was abducted and detained by the Taliban's General.
I have a lot of
on August 10th,
commentators, but I need to block them
since that time.
because I don't like these kinds of messages.
About Mr. Habibi's
If
whereabouts
you love your mom, you love your sister, you love your daughter, you love your family, you must respect, you know, no matter where you are, who you are, if you have respect for yourself, you can be a good person and a better person and a kind one.
via Signal,
That's all.
Telegram, or WhatsApp, or go to rewardsforjustice.net. That again is an up to a $5 million reward for Mahmoud Shah Habibi for his safe return. And again, that is rewardsforjustice.net.
Really, mentor.
Excuse me. Excuse me, Matt, please.
I'm old
More of
now.
an announcement here. To conclude today,
I'm
the United
38.
States condemns the brutal and cowardly attack
Hi,
on the
Overwatch
marginalized
95. Thank you
Greek
for coming.
Orthodox Church and offers its condolences to the victims and their families.
Yeah, I think so.
We call
I
on the
don't like
Syrian
nonsense,
government
you
to
know.
hold all perpetrators of violence accountable and ensure the security of all
January?
Syrians, including members
So
of
you're
religious
still
and ethnic
52.
minorities. As Ambassador Barrack has said, the United States
You're still
continues to
52.
support the Syrian government
You're not
as
old.
it fights against forces seeking to create instability and fear in their country and in the broader region.
Before you reach,
Take your questions.
before you reach 60, mentor, maybe you will meet me soon. If we are still alive, you know, if we still exist in this world, so don't you worry.
Yes, as I noted in my announcement, and actually what, of course,
And
we
then,
appreciate
if
about
we
President
meet,
Trump is you never really have to
maybe
guess
we
what
don't
he's
have a
thinking, which is
teeth.
appreciated. One of
Your
those
teeth all
transparent we've
removed.
known.
And
Americans in the world have watched all of this
maybe
unfold. I think
your hair is white.
a very clear way, and certainly with the leader of the free world, really, essentially.
Hello,
And,
friend.
making it clear, his
Finally,
opinion. And this is
we
what
met.
also, I think, keeps things moving. With any ceasefire dynamic, it's fragile.
Where are you living right now, mentor?
Did come together, and there has been
Same.
in that region.
Where?
He did make clear his feelings about that.
James
but as I mentioned in the opening, that
James
he
Sloan.
said, just a couple of hours ago, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally.
June 11.
It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capability, and then stop
this
the war.
year. Your birthday was finished, James, right?
That diplomacy can stop wars. That it is the thing that we
Oh,
should rely on.
why, James?
He leaned into that, and it's continuing to work. This is a dynamic now
Oh,
that is in play.
sorry, James.
And is I think steady as he as I believe also recognized based on his comments.
And then on his comments about
Of course,
China
mentors.
being able to continue to
But
purchase
maybe
oil
when you
from
visit the
Iran,
Philippines, I'm
how does
still
this
here in the
affect
UAE.
this part of the
Because I don't want to go to the Philippines. I don't have anything there. I am poor. That's why I'm working here as housemaid here in the UAE. You know.
Those are all very good questions. Yes, and it's obviously a very
That's very sad of my life.
Use the word fluid here many times. A very fast-moving environment.
Ay,
The
nako.
president has signaled what he expects, what he is
Yeah.
looking forward to.
Thank you,
This
Florida,
is a cabinet and a government that
for
acts to the nature of what he
coming.
says and what he wants. And in this case, of course, I'm not going to discuss what that process will be, the nature
If you
of
need
any of the applications via the various
I'm good
departments in this
for
government.
farm
But
mentor.
clearly, we are focused on making sure that that guiding hand of President Trump prevails. And
If I finish my contract here as a housemaid, maybe you can hire me.
All right, yes, Andrea.
Follow up.
Yes.
Does that mean?
Oh my God.
Are we lifting sanctions? Has
Well,
anything happened to make that possible?
You know, I'm not going to
Chakra God.
get ahead.
Thank you
of
for
the
coming,
president
Chakra.
Or try to guess at what his strategy will be, but it will be
Michael,
one that
thank you for
benefit this
joining.
country, and that again he's very clear. I think the difference is obviously sometimes you
Oh,
don't hear
come
ahead
on.
of time about the trajectory
Yeah,
of
Michael.
a president. With President Trump, he speaks honestly with us. So I would.
Yeah,
I
2
would
years
suggest
mentors.
to
I just
not
finished my.
translate, to
I'm.
not speculate or guess.
I have
But to watch
1
because
year
things happen
contract.
quickly, and I think we'll find out sooner than later. Yes, ma'am. One more.
Quick.
I just finished a year.
You quoted the president saying it was my great honor to destroy all nuclear
I still have 1 year to finish.
As far as we know, the bomb
Are you ready to hire?
has not been done. The Joint Chiefs Chairman
No.
was talking about how long it might take. Do we have something more conclusive about destroying all of the nuclear facilities?
Well, a conclusive comment for me would be coming from the President of the United
Oh,
States.
sorry, James, huh?
I have great admiration for you, Andrea Mitchell, but I think
When, James?
more than any one of us here.
Nephew.
At the same time,
So where are you living
the
right now,
information
James?
that we receive, that the American people receive,
Are you alone?
and which will be public, will take some time. But President
Ashley,
Trump has indicated his
Chirila, thank you for
pleasure at
joining.
the success of that raid, which obviously was very limited in scope, and that's a very good point. I think
Jason
that
Williams, thank you for coming.
the nature of what's occurred, and I'm pleased that the president is pleased.
Oh, I need to
Sean,
block
Sean
you,
Tan.
James.
Sure. Could I proceed? I mean, another comment from the president.
Oh my God, why there's a lot of good people, but there's still.
Does he believe that the Israelis complied with this?
My God, why like this?
Well, I think that there's early
Where are
on,
you?
and again, I'm here at the State Department. I know my colleague
Sorry,
Caroline
Michael.
is very articulate and clear on the nature of the president whom she represents and the State Department at the White House. But I think when we
Why like
clearly
this?
look at the nature of how the day
He's
has
making my day,
transpired,
but
there was some activity back and forth, and that has stopped, and the ceasefire has taken effect, and the president is pleased. So I think we can take that as an indicator of his feeling about it at this point. One more.
Sure, and I mean, they're both statements both from Tehran and from Jerusalem
Yes.
today. But I mean, one of the things that from the Israeli military chief was saying that they reserve this is just a phase, and they reserve the right to go back in. I mean, do you think that's consistent with the call for a ceasefire in terms of the Israeli statements?
Well, I think the statements that we've looked at that we care about are the fact that both, certainly Israel has agreed to the ceasefire. And we believe there's a statement from Iran that
thank you
has
for
done so as
coming,
well.
James.
So those are the statements that we care about. All right. Yes, sir. In fact, right there, sir. Yes, sir.
Obviously, pretty epic diplomatic developments last night.
Really,
Can you
mentors.
walk us through
any of the diplomatic steps that were
single
taken
in
to
50.
specifically Secretary Rubio's role? What are some of the ongoing efforts to make sure the ceasefire sticks? And then a separate but related question.
Don't tell me. We're same.
Does this administration
My God.
envision a broader rapprochement
Stop
with
it.
Tehran that
I
could
need
lead
to go to church.
diplomatic ties being established even the opposite?
Well, both those
I have
issues, I
church to
can't
attend.
speak directly to them, but I can say a few things in that certainly
Remy,
I wasn't
Jeremy.
there. The Secretary of State was in a dynamic
GTA
with the
6,
President
what
that
you mean?
is a private dynamic as that team was
Walker Jr., Tony.
a war and the nature of how to stop
I
it.
love
So
you
I can't
too.
speak to how
Where
that
are you living
transpired
right
or the
now?
decisions that were
Walker.
made, but obviously a successful
Walker? Walker?
evening,
Did I
successful
pronounce
aftermath when it comes also to
the right
a very
pronunciation
quick
of your
ceasefire.
name?
In the
Tony,
meantime,
I must call you Tony.
for your other question,
Hey,
which was,
Layuda,
remind me again your second
Samson.
question?
Well,
What happened?
President Trump is willing to
What
accept that
happened?
the
Your
potential for trade
message.
with Iran.
Oh, the trade question.
I was asking more about the
Yes,
potential
obviously, again, while I can't
Did you
speak
sell
obviously to the choices
something
President
bad?
Trump will make,
Why? It's
what we do all
retracted.
know is that he is a businessman. Americans appreciate that about
Hey,
him, the nature of
Layuda,
how
what?
he looks at
Ashley
the issue of
Chirila,
national security and safety.
what's the meaning of this?
And he has in the past
Layuda.
addressed the issue of relationships with this country, keep other nations secure, that we are a good friend to have, that a friendship with the United States
Oh, what's the date of what date this September? Your mom.
I look at that and his approach in certain things.
What date? Because my birthday is September 23. Okay.
It seems to be a correct one. It's one I agree with. So I think we'll see that if that in fact is the case here, and we'll
Remy,
find out.
Jeremy.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any sort of monitoring mechanism
I know,
for
of
the
course.
ceasefire if it continues to
He's
hold?
my
Will there be
kabayan.
a third party that is making sure that both sides are adhering to this?
Remy.
As the State Department, I can't really speak to that. I think that's a DOD question and certainly a White House question.
And then, how do you view the next steps for nuclear talks potentially?
Oh, I will
resuming
check
in
your
light of
channel,
this ceasefire?
mentor.
Is there
You will be my
anything on the
mentor.
schedule? Any follow-on conversations between the two sides to try to resume the talks that had been
Well, I
scheduled?
can't speak to a schedule. I can't.
Oh.
I'm not going to guess or speculate about when something might happen.
Oh my
but
God,
President
it's
Trump throughout this process had been
I'm
tweeting
23,
about the fact
September
that this would be a good
23.
time
Wow,
for
that's
negotiations
nice.
to
I'm
renew,
Venus.
for these talks to renew.
We're all
Of
Venus,
course, with some
like your mom.
disappointment that it got to this point. He has been committed to diplomacy and to discussions.
Advance happy birthday to me and your mom and your
I would think
and
that
your
that has
son.
changed. So,
Oh,
the
how many
commitment, no, not just
how
for President Trump,
many
but also for
kids
Secretary
you
Rubio,
have, mentor?
to minimize
26.
the need and go out of your way for the need to
Okay.
not
You have only one son?
is
How
clearly
many
a
kids you
hallmark
have?
for him and his view of national
Mentor.
security and foreign policy, as it is for Secretary Rubio. And I would expect that approach and that commitment.
Are you
to
there?
remain the same. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Tammy. Just to follow on that,
Oh.
over the weekend, the president, many other cabinet members, they said that the strikes by the U.S. military on Iranian facilities had obliterated the nuclear program. Because of that, do you see that as buying more time for
Oh,
these
23.
negotiations to play
Your
out? Is
daughter.
there urgency?
They're big.
And there are reports that
Breaking tonight, right at the beginning of this show, President Trump saying Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire. He says it will be phased in over 24 hours. We have yet to hear from the
Okay,
Iranians with the
mentor.
Israelis. It's
Wait.
built the weapons, the load crews that loaded it. Before I run through this video today, I want to talk a little bit about weaponeering and what goes into an attack.
What,
Weaponeering
Ashley?
is the
Thank
science
you.
of evaluating a target. I mentioned all of those factors before that these two DITRA officers had thought about. Ultimately, weaponeering is determining the right weapon and fuse combination to achieve the desired effects and maximum destruction against a target. In the case of Fordo,
Oh, Fordo, what is this?
We are bringing you now the statement from Iran's supreme leader, his first one since the end of the conflict with Israel. Let's listen to it.
The Zionist entity has been swaying under our
Yeah, a
rules.
boy and a girl.
They would have never imagined to have been dealt these blows, but yet this is what had happened. We
That's why I'm
thank
old now, mentor.
God Almighty for assisting our armed forces, enabled them to penetrate the multi-layers of
Yes, mentor.
defense set up by the enemies.
We're seeing
All the
boy and girl,
military and
a son and a
non-military
daughter.
positions came under our attack.
We're same old, we're same
These
son and
positions
daughter.
within the Zionist entity came under attack. The Zionist entity's aggression was met by lethal and fatal attacks, and we succeeded in destroying the enemy's capabilities. And this is a message that the Zionist entity must come to know. Any aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran will have a dear cost, a big and high price. This is what happened. Praise and pride to the Iranian armed forces, the Iranian people.
Are you okay,
The
mentor?
armed
Where
forces
are you?
are part and parcel of the Iranian people. It is the Iranian people that provided, raised, and fostered those armed forces personnel. Today, we have a robust, mighty armed forces. A second message of congratulations on the victory of our beloved Iran against the United States of America. The United States immediately intervened and got involved in the war simply for the reason that they have a firm conviction if they hadn't, the Zionist
Thank you, Ashley,
entity
for coming.
would be annihilated. That's why the United States had it in rescue and support of the Zionist entity. Yet they did it. They attacked our nuclear facilities, their militias, yet it later proved that they have been excessively
What happened?
exaggerating.
Sonjak Osman, thank you for coming. Good afternoon to you.
The outward position of the Americans is failure, as they fail to destroy the Iranian nuclear facilities. That's why they continued with their attempt to magnify and amplify their attacks on our facilities in order to conceal their failure. The Islamic Republic of Iran dealt a heavy blow to the American forces when they targeted and attacked the American military base in Al Udeid in Qatar, causing grave damage to the base.
Wow, darling.
Those who amplified their attacks on our nuclear facilities came out to downplay our attack on their military
This is Al Jazeera English live news, guys.
What matters is
they're just translating maybe, I think so.
Have the capability
yeah, they're
to
just
target
translating.
And attack any position
oh,
they
Sonja,
desire
thank
at
you.
any point of time. Similarly, the American military bases will come under our attack if the American
and
forces direct any belligerence against
thank you, Ashley.
Iran. The third message is, by virtue of the unity, solidarity, and harmony among our people,
and harmony.
the entire population, one voice, one hand, standing side by side, rising above their differences. They rose up and stood by the side
William
of
McIntosh,
the Islamic
hello,
Republic
hello.
of Iran and
Thank
the
you for
armed
coming.
forces. Not
It's
only that,
4:30 p.m. here in the
they
UAE.
praised
I'm from the
and
Philippines,
commended
and I'm working as housemaid here in the UAE.
ranks of our
So
armed
thank you for
forces.
joining my live.
The Iranian people have demonstrated their mettle and their unity against the belligerence initiated against the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is a message that our people are one voice, one hand, one block. The key message of my word here is that one of his speeches, the United States President said
United States.
Iran must completely give up and surrender. Then the issue is not our nuclear endeavors, yet our surrender. However, these words are much bigger than the US President himself. Iran is a deep-rooted empire, deep-rooted in history, with well-established civilization. That's why the word surrender is not within our vocabulary. The Iranian people mocked the words uttered by the US President. Since the victory of the Iranian revolutions, the West, namely the United States, maintained animosity against Iran under many false pretexts. Sometimes they came up with, under the guise of human rights, women rights. Now they are coming with other pretexts.
Thank you so much, William.
About our
Where are you watching right now? Thank you for coming.
nuclear endeavors. Their ultimate goal is to see Iran surrendering. Former US President did not publicly utter such words. Simply, these words are not acceptable at the global
Thank you,
legal
William McIntosh.
level. No president has the right
Mabuti.
to demand
How you speak Tagalog? Maybe your wife is from the
to
Philippines.
surrender.
Am I right?
The Iranian cannot and will
Ashley,
not
Chirila.
surrender. This is a key point in my message. Let the Iranian people know that the United States have deep-rooted animosity with Iran and the Iranian people, and they want us to surrender. This cannot and will not happen. Iran is mighty, established with deep civilization, deep-rooted in history, vast geography, and established culture, many-fold bigger than the United States civilization. No one could imagine
James
that
WT,
Iran or the Iranians
thank you for coming to my
could
live.
surrender. Preposterous.
Where are
This
you
is
living right now?
demanding Iran or the Iranian to surrender would bring about nothing but mockery. Iran and the Iranian people are dignified and will remain standing
I'm from
tall by the
Daluzon,
grace of God
Ashley.
the Almighty. And I pray
Nice to see you too,
to
William,
God
from
Almighty to bestow blessings and grace
California.
upon our beloved homeland and our people, and may God have mercy on the Supreme Leader Al-Khomeini. May he rest
Hi,
in
the
peace.
Beast, James,
Don't miss out. Get
WT.
the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insight. Like, share,
Thank you for
stay
coming,
ahead.
the Beast. US strikes. Oh my
Joining us now on
God.
Al Jazeera is Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman, Ismail Bagay. He's live from Tehran. Thank you so much, Mr. Bagay, for being with us on Al Jazeera. So, President Trump there insisting that Tehran's nuclear program has been completely destroyed.
I'm
He
here.
said,
I'm from the Philippines,
"The US strikes
William,
were a
and
perfect
I'm working
operation
here
that
in the
obliterated
UAE.
Iran's nuclear capabilities." What's your response to that? What's the initial assessment, damage assessment at your nuclear sites?
I think what
Jay
matters
Mason,
here and should not be
thank you so much.
overshadowed by
Really?
beautiful words and different
Sanja,
position taken by the United States is the fact that
are you telling that I'm pretty,
detrimental
Jay,
blow to international law, to
or
NPT regime,
the other?
and to moral ethics of the international
Yes,
community.
you do.
So what matters most here is for the international community to understand that the U.S. military strikes was an
William.
act of aggression against Iran's territorial integrity and national sovereignty, and that
I'm
matters
working here
most.
as a housemaid here in the
Understood.
UAE,
But
but
when
I'm
the
from
US
the
president
Philippines.
says that Iran's nuclear program has been completely destroyed, do you reject
Thank you so
or
much.
accept that?
Maybe your wife is maganda. Not me.
Iran's right to nuclear
Thanks,
peaceful
James.
energy
Yo,
to
because I'm
nuclear
here in the
peaceful
UAE.
energy remains intact. Iran has every right under NPT,
Kevin
under
Jones,
Article 4 of the NPT,
thank you for
to
coming.
enjoy using nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. And
Thank
Iran
you, the
is
Beast.
determined to preserve that right under any circumstances.
Okay, can
Ashley
you tell us
Chirila.
what's left of the Iranian nuclear program and the uranium stockpiles? Has Iran been able to save, to salvage any of the uranium stockpiles
William,
before
it's
the US
8
bombing?
years. Yeah.
As I said, I think these
Sean
are
Baker,
secondary
thank you for
issues.
joining.
The primary concern of the international community has to be to
Oh,
condemn
Sean, what you mean?
this lawless act
Who
by
are
the
you
United
talking
States.
with?
I think it is really a very bad sign that many people
What you mean,
across
Sean
the
Baker?
globe are trying to underestimate the
Hello,
depths and
hello, John
gravity
Anthony. Thank you for
of
coming and
the
joining to our
American
live
act of
today,
aggression against
tonight.
Iran. And now they are talking about
Thank
the
you,
level
Australian.
of strikes or its effectiveness. The
I'm
international
FC.
community has to understand
Okay.
that what was done by the United States
FC.
against Iran was a horrible blow to international diplomacy, to international law, and to international ethics.
Understood. Sir, I just want to insist on the fact that the IAEA has called on Iran to allow nuclear inspectors at the site as this ceasefire
Thank you, William.
with Israel is now in place. But instead, I understand Iran is considering cutting cooperation with the new UN nuclear agency. Can you tell us why and why you would not allow inspectors on the ground to verify the facts?
Imagine telling a country they cannot use uranium for medical or industrial
Don't you think it is
purposes.
only natural for the
Oh.
representative of a nation that have come
Sean Baker, no, my employers are good. They don't take even my passport, my ID, everything. It's with me.
by our parliament today.
Okay?
It has been adopted.
So don't worry about me. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I know some employers are like that, but my employers are very good. If you are good to them, maybe they are good to you also.
With two conditions.
That's
First, that Iran's inalienable rights under NPT, under Article 4 of the NPT, must be recognized. The second thing is that the security and safety of our nuclear installations, our scientists, our people should be preserved. So I think it's only logic. It's a matter of logic and law, because
I'm not 20. I'm 38, William.
Responsible member of the NPT, we have to be able to enjoy the rights that are afforded to every member state of this treaty.
Speaking of the NPT, sir,
yeah, thank you,
also
Sean.
talked about Iran has also discussed suspending its participation
What
in
you mean,
the
Devin
Proliferation
Jones?
Treaty. Is that something that's been seriously considered? Will
Shut
Iran pull
up.
out of the NPT after this war?
As I said, the draft bill of the parliament talks about suspending our cooperation with the IAEA. It doesn't talk about suspending our
Oh my God, no.
participation or membership in the treaty. And I think the bill again is in line with the parameters of the NPT, because the bill talks about guaranteeing our rights under the NPT.
You're right under the NPT, and you've said this before, sir, that Iran has the right to enrich uranium. Can you tell us, I'm going to insist on this a little bit more, what remains operational today as far as Iran's nuclear program?
Thank you, James.
I have nothing to add on this matter, because it's a matter of
You're right, Sean.
technical issue. Our Atomic Energy
But my employers
Organization
are
and all the
good.
relevant
They're
agencies
very
are
good,
working
really.
on that. But yes, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure, because it has come under repeated attacks by Israeli and American aggressors.
Sean. Where are you living right now, Sean? Where are you watching right now?
People in the